Hey, Jeff Big Daddy Wayne here, and today I'm going to talk about hecklers. Anybody that gets into the world of stand-up comedy at some point is going to have to deal with a heckler. Now, I think you should know there are different variety of hecklers. Okay, everything that happens with someone shouting out during your show isn't a heckle. Sometimes somebody is caught up in the excitement of the show and makes a comment. Sometimes somebody actually will say something, they're caught up in what you're saying and they're trying to put you in a different direction or offer their thoughts on something. And they're not trying to destroy the show, they're just caught up in it. There are some people that go to the show and they want to be the show. Now those are hecklers, okay? Those are people that want to damage you, throw you off, and you as a comedian need to learn to deal with them. And you will. To experience, that word nobody uses anymore, which is called experience. You have to keep getting in front of an audience, learn how to deal with these usually drunken creatures or people that think that they're actually funnier than you are. There's something about them, their ego, that their insecurity, that I'm going to prove to everybody I'm funnier than the comedian. In the middle of the show, I'm going to toss a hand grenade. Let's see what happens. You know, here's the deal. The basic rule with hecklers is to ignore them. Because as soon as you give them attention, it makes it worse. Unless you can just knock them down and knock them out right there, which is the other way to go. Usually it's the rule of three. Let them go once, let them go twice. The audience sympathy goes to you, and you get them on the third shot. That's one of the little techniques that comics use. One of the things I always do with a heckler is I wait to the third time and point out to the audience, you see, ladies and gentlemen, we got someone auditioning tonight. They just don't know the correct process. And then I'll follow up when then they'll answer that. You have to give your children attention when they're little. You must pay attention to your children. Otherwise, they grow up, go to comedy clubs, and heckle. They need attention. He needs attention. And then, of course, there's the stock lines. You know, hey, if your dick was as big as your mouth, you'd be with a lady right now. Hey, if your IQ goes up 2 points, sell. Hey, take another sip of your personality. Now, I want to give you here some of the best heckles, retorts that I know in my life. This was an old timer. His name was Will Jordan. He was a comedian and impressionist, and he got into it at some very shishi club in the 50s with Johnny Weissmuller, who played Tarzan. They got into a really nasty back and forth, and Johnny Weissmuller said, I'd like to get you in 6 feet of water. And Will Jordan said, I'd like to get you into 6 feet of cement. There was a comedian, Emery, very funny man, still working, who had one of the best heckler lines I ever heard, which is the guy was heckling. And, finally Emery adjusted him and said, listen, I'm a professional comedian with a microphone. Do you really think you're going to beat me at this? Again, they just want attention. Now, these are the best 3 that I always remember in my life, laughing along with what was happening. This is when the heckler or the person enjoying the show got the best of the comedian. There was a comedian called Danny Stone, terrible comedian. He's at the Comedy Store. He patted his stomach and he said, you see this? All bought and paid for. All bought and paid for. And a lady down front went, bad investment. And he went, hey, you fucker. He just lost it there. Another one was a comedian who wasn't doing very well at Cal State Northridge at a comedy show, and a guy started heckling him. And the comedian got very angry and leaned over and said, hey, do you want to go outside? And the guy went, is it going to be any funnier out there? That got the audience. And another comedian at the same place, Cal State Northridge, did this joke. It was a long joke. And it would go back to like a chorus of hit the nickel, hit the dime, hit the quarter. Hit the nickel, hit the dime, hit the quarter. Hit the nickel, hit the dime, hit the quarter. It's a long joke. It's involved, but it always goes back to hit the nickel, hit the dime, hit the quarter. And he was dying. He's telling this joke, and it's a long joke. And finally he goes, hit the nickel, hit the dime. And somebody went, hit the fucking road. He jumped in the audience and started punching people. Now, just to look at my notes very quickly, I just want to see, here was a good one. Jay Leno always had a good one. When somebody would start talking or heckling, it's a shame we don't have microphones for everybody. Ed Bluestone, a comedian that I used to love in the early 70s, won a spot on Dean Martin's Comedy World, auditioning at the Improv in New York for the producer of the show, Greg Garrison. And at that time, you could not use any blue language whatsoever. You just couldn't do it. You're not going to get on TV. And Ed had pretty well done his showcase, and somebody started heckling him. It was a guy who was an Arab. And the guy said, I'm an Arab, or you don't like me because I'm a Jew or something like, or you don't like me because you're Jewish or something. And Ed said, hey, there's a way you behave at a comedy club. After 5,000 years of shoveling camel shit, you people think you would get it together. Well, when that brought down the house, Greg loved him. Anyway, I'm going to give to you what I thought was the best retort to someone who was a heckler, okay? And at the Troubadour, which was a very famous club in Los Angeles where Elton John was discovered and a few other people, it was a packed house. The Smother Brothers were performing, and Harry Nilsson and John Lennon came to the club, and they were just completely messed up on drugs. And this made national news, by the way, in all the trades, industry trades. Anyway, John Lennon went to the ladies' room, scotch taped a Kotex to his head, and came back and sat down and started heckling the Smothers Brothers. And a waitress walked over and said, could you please keep it down? Could you please not heckle? And John Lennon looked at her and said, do you know who I am? She said, I do. You're the asshole with Kotex taped to the top of your head. You really can't beat a waitress, can you? Anyway, I'm Jeff Big Daddy Wayne. This is Big Daddy Knows, and we want you to subscribe.